Matt Root. So Matt Root at the Milwaukee GT. So I don't necessarily have notes. Sorry, like hit the notes from the player himself, but I do have the mission layout and the mission schedule. So at least I have that kind of context we can work with, which is good for me. So we have Matt going 4. Yeah, I'll show it right now on screen. He ended up going 4-0-1. So he did have a draw and he had it round 1. So let's take a look at his list. He had Tactical Brigade, triple beast bosses. I guess you've been talking to I'm having a brain fart right now. A Jack Harvester, huh? You've been talking to Jack with his triple beast bosses. Shout out to you guys. Then we have a Big Mech and Mega Armor with triple Big Mech with shock attack gun. We have 3 10-man units of Beast Snagga Boys. Now, mind you, people were talking about this in chat earlier in my Discord, where they're like, I can't find anything other than Snagga Boys and such because GW's all out of stock. Trust me, them Snagga Boys fire. All right, with the Beast Boss and them Snagga Boys, they're really good. So I still like them in this detachment. They work so good in a detachment, you can really get them sustained, in my opinion. Then we have 2 5-man units of Storm Boys as battle line. 3 trucks, a 5-man unit of Burner Boys, where he brought a custom Mega Blaster. That's what I like too. I don't know about you. 1 big 10-man unit of Flash Kits, followed by 2 5-man units of Flash Kits, a minimum size unit of Gretchens, and then 3 Tank Busters. So as for someone who's played something similar, not the same, of course, but it ends up feeling like you have a lot of big missile assets because you have multiple killy, threats. You have 3 melee, 3 dedicated shooting, and then the Flash Kit is kind of like a combined unit. It's more for shooting, but it can run around and punch if you keep it alive kind of later in the game, where it can like clear off when everybody's kind of dead. That's really a threat to it. You can clear off a bunch of multiple units that was shooting and then charging into a different one. So it's cool that you have 3 melee, 3 shooting, but that's 7 threats, and then all your other chaff. So what I thought was cool here is he actually did bring an actual individual mech, which people don't consistently do, but they've been slowly saying I'm integrated here and there. I like to bring Gobboomer on it to give it out, but if you are bringing the mech, a lot of the time is because you're utilizing the mech, the open top or firing deck ability from your trucks. That way your Tank Buster or your Flash Kits can really get off and start shooting multiple times. If your unit gets tangled up and you have to fall back with one, you can fall back with one of your other units and fall into a transport, and the transport can drive away and they can shoot. So there's a lot of like mobility in this that there is. Of course, not everything goes into a transport every game, but if you were to designate it, what it does, it'd be tank busters. You could say go into multiple SWAT teams here, then go into vehicles. You could say the Flash Kits, Big Brick probably gets a truck because it's a big profile unit, and then maybe one of the 2 of these Beast Snagga Boys, Beast Boss units do. Plenty of reserves options here. You can put 1 Beast Boss unit in reserve. You can put Tank Buster units in reserve. This was on, like I said, we have for day 1, it was actually layout 3. So I can actually pull that up so you guys can actually look. Oh, let me hold this back. I still have stuff from earlier. Shout out to the chat. See you guys. Pull layout 3 here up so you can look at it while we talk about this. No grots for home. Super lean. No, here's 1 grot unit right there, right above the Tank Buster. Yeah, but imagine if someone did bring no grots. I can never imagine someone not bringing grots intentionally. So we're looking at this mission here. It was layout 3. So depending on what deployment zone you have, reserves are quite optional for layout 3 here. So like I said, tank busters would be pretty solid for that. Oops, popped away from that. And we'll look more at the terrain layout as we go over the missions and everything like that. But secondaries reserves look good for day 1, but day 2, which I'm gonna show you right now, is layout 3. Now in layout 3, which he played on Crucible, it was Crucible battle for both the day 2 missions. This is not a mission that I typically put too much stuff in reserve. If you do, it's because you safely control one of these top edge or bottom edge half of a box shape object buildings, which that's where commandos come into play. If you had them, like I said, he doesn't have commandos or any sort of infiltrate, so he kind of just got to get there with the trucks, right? So yeah, that was the day 2. Day 2, he was on layout 8. So not my favorite for reserves on that one. But yeah, let's move up to layout 3 again, because that's his day 1. As we talk about his day 1 path to victory, we'll look at that a little bit more. So let's look at his path to victory. Like I said, starting with his draw. No Morks. I mean, that means he couldn't put all 3 tank busters in reserve. Yeah, he can't put all 3. No. but he could put. That's why I said he could put one in the truck or two in one. He could put two in, one in the individual truck and then run SWAT teams. Like I said, because he has 5 units of tank busters. He could put all the tank busters in trucks and then put like 1 or 2 unit of beast snagger boys in reserve. A lot of people like to bring ingress units, and like a beast boss unit would actually work out in this case. Or some people like to put a 5-man unit of flash kits in reserve, so you don't even need to put all the tank busters in reserve or any. This just gives the option. And like I said, day 2 on layout 8, I don't like to put any of those stuff in reserve. I would keep, in my personal opinion, I'd probably put all the trucks with the tank busters to get line of sight, or maybe just use one. Let me look at that layout. You guys were already starting to get. That's why I want the chat to be live, boy. That's why I like that live chat to talk about it, because on layout 8, pull it up here, you could stage up right in the middle with like a tank buster unit, but you could also use a beast boss unit for that, where you stage up in the middle. So if anybody kind of wants to commit to the middle of this, depending on what the deployment, it was Crucible, like I said, so it's coming kind of across where you can use that middle to stage up with one shooting. But all in all, you want trucks that could run out and kind of get some of these lanes. Yeah, it has a heck of firing lanes. Yeah, this layout 8, so you guys can see, it's not really that common, but some people I've talked to about it. In my area, in the Midwest America, I actually see this quite a bit. Layout 8, layout 7, I played on those quite a bit more than I've maybe other gets I've talked to. If you've talked about it, you let me know. It is the Thunderdome. That's a funny name to call it. So yeah, these don't rely on reserves a lot, in my opinion. Which is why I said in day 2, when he's playing layout 8, probably put tank busters in the truck. But then that leaves like, where do your beast snaggle boys go, right? But the boys can come in from ingress once you safely staged up in that terrain on the edge, and then boom. So there's a lot of context we could have here. Don't want to get too lost. I'm already not getting lostness, but don't want to guess too much yet, besides talking about his path. Shout out to our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, as they helped us do our Waaaghtaktiks dice. So shout them out. Check them out in the description, 5% off in the discount, because nobody likes taxes. And shout out to Baron of Dice. They allow us to do our paint competition. So thank you very much to them. So let's start with his first game, which he went into, the Aeldari. So everybody's talking about the Aeldari. We have the Spider Mom and Queen Jen. So I believe these is the new meta. We're going to talk about this, I think, in another matchup we cover, where they're running the Genzar, the Lynxus, and then the Artark. We have a Storm Guardian unit, followed by 3 units of Dark Reapers, and then 3 units of Fire Dragons. Fire Dragons are excellent for destroying transports. For the most part, which this is what they're going to be doing. 3, was it 3 or 1? Oh, this guy only had 1. Sorry, somebody else. 1 unit of Howling Banshees for that nice little like running up fast unit to get the initiative on you. 3 5-man units of Striking Scorpions, and then 2 units of Swooping Hawks, and then 2 5-man units of Spiders. So really, really heavy on the MSU. Hard to really get and interact with all these units. As for the mission, it was Linchpin, Raise Banner, Search and Destroy. So you're starting off in your corners, and having all these fast, small Eldar units means they're getting around the field, scoring constantly. When it comes to, I'm wondering, when we looked at his score, such a kind of a low point, but to get to a draw, did these guys kind of end up swapping? Not swapping, but swapping the idea of, we're not going to really score too heavy on the primary here because it's linchpin. So am I going to be able to actually hold that middle objective? Generally, I'm going to hold my home, really protect my home, because I need it to continuously score the extra points throughout the game. So as an orc player, a lot of the time I like to go out there and take theirs. But if you're playing something that's not like to take their linchpin, but their home objective. But if you're playing something like Matt Roots's, which is really killy, it ends up playing more of a, I'll concede that you keep you that one. I'll contest it maybe a little bit here. I'll contest the home and use it more for scoring secondaries, and then I'll keep my natural expansion. I'll keep my home safe, and then I'll safely score 8, and then start scoring more primary later in the game. And then of course you have Raised Banner, but of course you're really only doing that like once. So yeah, and then of course we have layout. Let me pull that up because I want to talk about the layout here. For layout 3. So for layout 3, you're probably using yeah, like I said, layout 3, you can stage up pretty safely for the most part. I don't hate layout 3, but you can't really. Am I hiding? No, I'm hiding. Hang on back. On these objectives, without really being exposed to being shot up or killed. So this is why I was assuming he's playing quite cagey. If you do commit to the middle, then the enemy can really directly counteract and smash you in the middle. So usually people just kind of tippy toe and don't full commit there and just put stuff there that can score. So yeah, but he did end up getting a tie, and I think that's just kind of one of those things that we're gonna have to look at too as orc players, how to really deal with these Eldar, and do they really put a hamper on the tactical brigade? That's what we kind of hear a lot about. So you let me know what you think about that. I think we're up for experiment. This is one game. We don't have all the context as to what happened, but we do have that mission. So that's what I want to say about that. But still, great job, Matt. And sometimes it just gets you right when you're playing one of those missions where it's like, oh. What I will also say is, from what I know, I believe. No, that's not this event. Okay, so great job there. I was going to say something else that came to mind, but it didn't have relevance to this event. Sorry. You guys were like, what? What? No, trust me, my bad. Oh, so now we move on to round 2. So this is mission L. This is take and hold hidden supplies, search and destroy again. So let's take a look into his second game where he went into the creations of bile. So he has Abaddon the Despoiler. Okay, that's a little unusual to see Abaddon in there. We have Lord Terminator with Living Carapace, Fabius Bile, and then a Master of Execution with Prime Test Subject. What I'll say right now to you, Gets, between me and you, is this is the only guy I'm actually a fan of in TSM. Just me, right? So I would like to crump these gifts. So that's how I show my appreciation. So we have Cultist Mob followed by four units of Legionnaires, 5-man Legionnaires, one 5-man unit of Terminator Marines, followed by one big brick of Chosen, two bricks of Chosen, and then two minimum size unit of Obliterators. So he only has two big bricks of Chosen. I assume one is with Fabius Bile, and then maybe one with the Master of Execution. Again, this is on layout 3, like I said, and search and destroy. Two Obliterators for their indirect fire to be wary of, and then a lot of little 5-man units of Legionnaires. I would say the advantages that they kind of have so many points tied up in Abaddon, and typically these guys are already kind of low on assets. So if you can gain line of sight onto these Terminators with, the tank busters, right? This is something that's really different about when you play against this detachment. If you're playing like Warhorde or if you're playing Tactical Brigade. If you're playing Warhorde, you have to run into these Terminators with Abaddon. You have to try to hit them. They're going to be extra toughness, possibly fight on death. You're going to get trick killed, possibly not kill Abaddon, and then he gets to run through another unit and you get to attempt again. They might interrupt you, whatever it may be. When you're playing Tactical Brigade, this is where you get the ability to say, if you expose those guys, I will absolutely smash those Terminators with rockets, throw some bomb squigs on them, and really put a threat onto the Obliterators if they expose themselves as well. And then you can Overwatch the Chosen, which they're, with the 3-up armor save, you can get through them as well. And then they just run out of assets. When you have 7 really devastating assets. Now, you don't actually do devastating wounds to anything in here, but the fact that you can get up to really nice strength thresholds, the fact that outside of the wall, you can still be strength 6 to offset some of their toughness values if they get extra toughness, and the fact that you can get up to strength 7 with your Snagga boys on the wall means that you can really punch through them if you get to them. So just through pure volume, because they don't have a bunch of great armor saves on these units that like the Chosen and such and the Legionnaires, it means that if they did extra to get toughness, your strength values, and then maybe your strength orders will help you offset +1 the wound. So a lot of the time we hear how Warhorde gives you more attacks as you constantly get sustained. One thing you can really consider is with Tactical Brigade, getting +1 to strength can essentially work as +1 to wound. So if you're getting more hits, which mathematically sustained 6s acts as almost like +1 to hit, getting +1 strength acts as getting +1 to wound sometimes, just for food for thought. In this matchup, that's where it would really play a factor when you're looking at the Fabius Bile detachment. And Matt ended up getting 100 points there. So love to see it. Really elite army right there. And he had all the numbers to just chew through this guy between rockets and infantry. So then we go into his third game, which I do have his notes here. Is not his notes, but the packet of what it was mission was Terraform, Swift Action, Sweeping Engagement. So this was layout 3 as well. So we have Angron, Lord Invacandus, Lord on Juggernauts, 2 of them, one a favorite of Khorne. And this was Berserker Warband. Then we have 2 units of Jackals for Sticky, 2 minimum size unit of 8-bound, followed by 1 big brick of Exalted 8-bound with 2 minimum size unit of Exalted 8-bound, and then 2 minimum size unit of Warp Spawn. Now, if you're doing Terraform, who's doing your Terraform, right? And they can do it because they're such small units. If you're playing on 3, usually you can get to it. But the thing is, Orks can try to flip it if they can get primary there. Now, what getting primary there is just like Snagga boys, as this game is quite, this unit army is quite aggressive. Sorry, about killing when I speak aggressive. I mean, Matt's list is quite aggressive and focused on killing, not really just flipping primary. That just comes with the fact that Snagga boys have a lot of OC. What I would say too is 8-bound, another one of those units that they have toughness 6, and you really got to get some volume on them because they can reduce damage by 1 with a stratagem and they get feel no pain. How do you offset that damage? Well, volume. They only have a 4-up invuln. Well, Snagga boys being strength 6 or 7, really 7 is what you're looking for with the order, really helps you chew and buzz through the 8-bound if you're not already obliterating them with tank busters, right? But they have so many units that are available for shooting with rockets and punching that all of those things are options. And then you do have, of course, Angron. You can't necessarily reliably punch him out with Snagaboys because he can do -1 damage, but that's where the tank busters come into place. You don't necessarily look for that. Yeah, and A-Bound have the 5 it was a 5 up invuln, is it? Okay, I was like, I thought Exalted A-Bound had a 4 up invuln though, don't they? I'm pretty sure, but I'll look into it in a second. So yeah, nonetheless, having volume offsetting -1 damage that they can do as a strat for, and then their feel no pains, volume is usually the way to chew through that, as well as your tank busters to either threaten Angron or to just eat away his Exalted 8-pound. Oh, they have a 5 up too also? Okay. I don't know why I assume they have 4 up. Maybe because I'm always hitting them with 8-pound. I mean with Snaggers, huh? So great job there. Another 100-point win there. So right now he's just smashing up the points, getting great scores. And then we go into his game 4. And like I said, for Terraform, Orks can flip it, put some pressure on them. You get your points, your Terraform throughout the whole game, and then you just kick it off. I think really though with 8-bound, with that World Ages list, you're just kind of eating it up. And thank you, by the way, chat, for telling me the correct invuln. A lot of info goes through here. Then we go on to his game 4, which is day 2. This is on layout 8. So if you're not familiar, I'll show out layout 8 one more time. That's layout 3. I lied to you. Let me scroll here real quick to layout 8. The Thunderdome, as chat nicely called it. So for this, he went into round 4 with mission N as the ritual. Swift action, a crucible of battle. So he went into the Genestealers. So we have an Abominant, Biophage, Patriarch. Pretty light on characters. That's cool. More stuff. So we have 1 unit of Acolytes with auto pistols, minimum size unit with hybrids, and then that's it for the elite for battle line. Pretty interesting. 1 dedicated transport, and then he has 1 5-man unit of Aberrants, followed by 2 individual Achilles Ridge Runners, followed by a 2-man unit of Achilles Ridge Runners, 1 unit of Adelan Jackals, a Galath Rock Grinder, 1 unit of Metamorphs, 2 units of Pierce Trains, one of them as a 10-man, one of them as a 5-man. Then he had allies. His allies were the Death Leaper, 2 10-man units of Gargoyles, a Lictor, Parasite Mortrex, and Von Ryan's Leapers. I would like to see this list just because it'd be so cool, thematically speaking, where you get to see the united force of Tyranids and GSC. That being said, they don't have the same, strategy because of mass bodies, but they still do have the I want to alpha strike you. So they have the Pure Strains for that reason, and they have the Von Ryan Leapers. Then the Gargoyles act as another layer of deterrence as they try to regen units in their backlines the closer up to the field as you. So they'll come and run into you with this kind of army of alpha striking, and then they have the Gargoyles in place so they can shoot and then move closer to you as well. So a lot of scoring behind this list and staging up. They have a couple of vehicles here and there, just killy enough to get respect, but not really that killy to the point that you're like getting shot off the table from in your deployment zone, right? There's more of like, I want to alpha strike run into you with dev wounds. Bit of a different kind of a tactic here. Now, as for the ritual, like I always say for the ritual you get, and what I would say is their tactic of I want to stay off you, I want you to stay off me so I could score on my side of the table is what they want to do as this army. Because ritual is I'm going to score, especially on what is this Crucible on 8, which means you're going to be at that diagonal. You're going to run on a diagonal safely across, probably up to, depending on what side table you're on, into your own deployment zone. So as an orc player, you have to play aggressively and you have to get on them, put your their foot on their neck and just crush them, and really use your tank busters to either effectively kill the aberrants so they're not an effective counter charge to you, or his transports if they're killing too much. Nonetheless, orcs usually have the perfect profiles with strength 6 snaggers to get through them, and you can use a little bit of your burner boys, for example, maybe a chuck here or there to try to stop that alpha striking. You want to go first so that they get have to go defensive, but nonetheless, shout out to you for having to deal with this, because when you're dealing with something you're not used to, they can catch you off guard. So shout out to him for getting a 100-point game on his 4th match as well. And shout out to my boy Ecot for 5 Waaaghtaktiks gifted membership. Whoa, for my boy for his support. Thank you very much. It's so generous of you get. And thank you to everybody who supports and helps. It helps us a lot. We're setting up for some good moves coming up here and new content. So thank you for supporting us. It has been impactful and helpful. Shout out to everybody who's been supporting in all the ways they do. And shout out to Ecop. Can we get some war bosses in the chat for that? I see you guys in the chat looking like some sleepy get. So I got some homies up in here. Let's get some more bosses for in the chat emojis for that, or just WAAAGH or whatever you guys got. So we go on to game 5. So as for game 5, finally didn't get 100 again. I'm just kidding. We go into, this is layout 8, like I said. Mission P, Scorched Earth, Inspiring Leadership, Crucible of Battle. So he's going into Packbound Zealot. 1 Warpsmith, 1 unit of cultists, war bikers, 2 minimum-sized units, 3 units of predator destructors, all with Nurgle, which means they can stealth. That means you actually, or I think they can lone up actually because they have the Narca Nurgle, so you can't actually fire on them unless you're within 18 inches. So be weary, be weary. Then we have the Vindicators, triple Vindicators on that, 2 Hellbrutes, 2 Mauler Fiends, and then 2 Venom Crawlers. So the 2 Hellbrutes have their aura, so they can get crit 5, so they get you lethal sustain. And then they pretty much act as a big old gun line, followed by Mauler Fiends and Venom Crawlers. What I would say here is devastating damage on Overwatch, devastating damage if you try to just stand on an objective. Could combine kind of weapons they have here between the Vindicators and the Destructors, so you have to respect them to every regard. But when you're looking at, I have real threatening units on this army. Oh, so does he to a certain degree, but most of them are vehicles. 3 Predators lines up with 3 Destructors and then Mauler Fiends. Orks are looking at this thinking we can really punch out, chew out a lot of these guys. So is he. So you have to be respectable because he also has stuff to throw away like Venom Crawlers. What I would say as for the mission, being Scorched Earth, is that both of you guys are going to be high scoring. They're going to be able to just stack up with 10 points each, and just kind of sit back and 5 points each and just sit back and not really worry about the enemy. Sorry, 5-10 points depending on what the enemy really does. But a lot of time people are going to be throwing up a lot of primary, and if you're the org player, like I said before, I try to burn maybe the middle if I can, but in this case, very unlikely that you're going to be able to actually hold that to burn that. So you're probably not going to get that off where you can. That means it's really cagey. As you can see, both guys scored pretty well. I think, actually, I don't know if let me see. I think it was that guy Drew right there, right? Drew. 62 points he ended up getting. Not terrible at all by any means. But he still ended up, getting a respectable score because it was Scorched Earth. But whoever goes second does naturally have an advantage there. But having the tools of, I have weapons to kill all of your vehicles almost at will. I would say tank busters don't devastate a Vindicator, but they can't take the risk that it does with the shock attack gun by melting through it with the AP. So nonetheless, this is kind of like I felt like was a meta read based off what we're familiar-ish with Matt Rue. Not that I've met him, but Milwaukee is close to my area, so we've been at events at the same time together. And yeah, he definitely brings stuff that's pretty aware of what he's going into in that meta. So that was really a prime to bring triple beast bosses, triple shock attack guns, and then a war boss and mega armor, 3 trucks, and then really taking advantage of reserves as you can and staging positions with SWAT teams. So shout out to Mr. Matt Rue scoring 3 100 in that path to victory, and to his tactic cunning way. Be a cunning it and check out our new order markers that are in our store. So shout out to you guys being cunning. Help you guys get all the orders set on the table nice and clean for all you get to get stuck in. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!